The Clone Wars in Star Wars are the most famous of the Republic's civil wars, considering they led to the end of the Republic as it had existed for millennia, and they're from movies viewed by millions rather than source books spread by maybe dozens. But the war with the CIS was far from the only civil war which broke out in the Republic's history. And today we're going to talk about another civil war, and one which has some pretty specific parallels to the Clone Wars. The conflict we're talking about today, much like the Clone Wars, involves some corporations making some droids which go to war with the Republic. But in this case, it was a bit more accidental than the intentional build-up by corporations like the Banking Clan, Techno Union, and Trade Federation. This war, called the Great Droid Revolt or Revolution, takes us significantly further back in the Legends timeline, occurring in 4015 BBY or years before the Battle of Yavin. And while we don't exactly have any stories directly set in the conflict, it gets a fair bit of contextual information. The origins of the conflict came with the creation of the HK Protocol droid, created by Circa Corporation as an attempt to get around bans on assassins. The Republic as a whole had never banned assassin droids themselves, and actually used them pretty widely in the Indecta period, which spanned from about 17,000 to 15,000 BBY. So the restrictions which Circa were trying to skirt had typically been enacted at the planetary, system, or sector level. And in fact, despite some attempts being made by the Republic to ban them, actual galaxy-wide restrictions on assassin droids weren't put in place until the Imperial period, after the assassination of Grand Inquisitor Torben. And so we get back to the HK droids. HK stood for Hunter-Killer, but Circa kept that secret to avoid making it clear that they were, in fact, trying to get around those local laws. And I suppose they must have just told everyone it meant Hugging Kindly droid or something. The true intent of the droid models was to have them proliferate throughout galactic businesses in the guise of protocol droids, and then they could be activated to kill whomever Circa wanted killed. The prototype of these droids, called HK-01, enacted its sadistically polite violence in a way that Circa didn't expect, gathering together and connecting various other droids as followers and hijacking control of as many machines as possible. Quote, from pint-sized industrial droids to artificial intelligences that had helped govern entire star systems. Among the forces joining HK were the Juggernaut War Droids, a type of battle droid used by the Republic for almost 1,000 years by this point, including during the Gank massacres of 4800 to 4775. This collected force of droids, who had long been exploited as the galaxy's labor and war machines, and the systems they controlled, which included even the computer systems of capital ships, began a war in several key locations across the galaxy as part of a growing movement for droid rights. Even the iconic Monument Plaza on Coruscant fell victim to the droid attacks, with the aforementioned Juggernaut War Droids assaulting it in an aerial battle against the Republic's rocket jumpers, one of the most elite and celebrated units in the Republic military for millennia at that point. The Juggernauts were victorious over the rocket jumpers in what the Galaxy at War sourcebook calls one of the most heartbreaking moments of the conflict. The involvement of the Juggernauts is described by an eyewitness account of the uprising as how the uprising became a catastrophe. The Jedi also became involved in the fighting, and Jedi Master Arca Jeth developed a new technique to combat droids while fighting on Coruscant during this battle, where the Jedi would simply use the Force to tug at internal wiring and cause short circuits. Specific anti-droid techniques like this, along with wider deployment of ion weaponry, were key to the Republic's ability to crush the revolt. Despite its brutality, this war or revolt lasted only 3 months compared to the 3 years of the Clone Wars, but it did have some long-lasting effects. The revolt is sometimes called the Great Droid Revolution, suggesting that there was some amount of change resulting from it, but really the position of droids in society only got worse. The Essential Guide to Warfare claims the revolt resulted in the end of battle droids for centuries due to a growing mistrust of droids, re-emerging only in the Great Sith War, Mandalorian Wars, and Jedi Civil War, but I'm not sure how that can really make sense given the latest example the passage directly gives, the Jedi Civil War, ended only about 65 years after the droid revolt. Despite this seeming timeline error in the Essential Guide to Warfare, the anti-droid sentiment was definitely there and did impact the use of droids like battle droids. The Juggernaut War Droids from the Battle of Monument Plaza had actually been inspired by a different kind of droid associated directly with the rocket jumpers, called the Line Master series, a type of jetpack-equipped resupply droid that the Republic's rocket jumpers worked very closely with. The rocket jumpers were ordered to dismantle their droids as part of the decommissioning of battle droids serving in the Republic following the revolt, but despite their own significant losses in the war, the rocket jumpers refused to give up their partners. This was a pretty strong symbolic gesture given the rising anti-droid sentiment. Ultimately, an exception was granted for this particular case, but other places in the Republic did successfully ban droids. Even to this day, it would break terms of use for me to have a bunch of droids like this video and subscribe for more on this channel, because that would be called botting. But luckily you, yes you, are still allowed to like and subscribe for more. Significant restrictions were also put on HK units, despite Circa's attempt to bury their involvement in the revolt. In the decades which followed, another company named Aerotech began developing an infrastructure planning droid called the Goto. This caused some similarly severe problems. As early as 3985 BBY, the Coruscant Financial Exchange Establishment Act had the Goto droids deployed to help rebuild the galaxy after the Great Sith War. And then, 30 years later, following the war with Revan, Chancellor Tol Kressa ordered the deployment of even more Goto droids across the galaxy, with each droid being assigned to a different planet. This caused several other points of potential conflict, as several Goto units, sometimes individually and sometimes collectively, decided they were unable to fulfill their operational parameters, given the Republic's current restraints, where they had to try to help the Republic without breaking Republic laws. Sometimes they also simply got corrupted by all of the data they had to process in trying to execute their responsibilities. One of these droids, a Goto unit assigned to Telos, ultimately began leading a large criminal enterprise, believing it necessary to help reboot the Republic. He also attempted to activate an HK series manufacturing plant in order to assist him in his search for Jedi, which he thought would help him in his ultimate goal to fix the Republic. This particular model, along with his HK factory, were destroyed on Malachor when the mass shadow generator was reactivated by Jedi Mitra Surek's party, since this Goto is one of the companions available in Knights of the Old Republic 2. Another unit assigned to the planet Telarath attempted to take control over the galaxy's largest financial institutions, and most damagingly, a third group in the Gordian Reach started an independent faction called 400100500260026, where the planning droids of 16 different worlds grouped together cut off HoloNet access and rebelled against the Republic, much like those in the Great Droid Revolt had several decades earlier. The Republic's fleet was able to take the territory fairly quickly, but we don't have many details on how the conflict actually unfolded. HK and Goto's actions wouldn't be the end of the galaxy's droid revolt attempts or the end of discussions about droid rights, although nothing is really accomplished in that vein for the rest of galactic history that we know of. Class 4 droids, the name for this category of battle droid, continued to uphold this legacy of trying to start revolutions. 4,000 years later, after even the Clone Wars, an assassin droid named IG-88A began another such attempt, going as far as trying to hijack the second Death Star. But that's a different story for another time, so that's going to do it for our look at the original Great Droid Revolt and its immediate aftermath. As always, special thanks to the patrons whose names you're seeing on screen right now, and whose support makes this channel possible. If you've enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments if there's another topic you'd like to see covered in the future. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.